This show, it feels very timely. I think this show hits very hard for me too, because we're in a really dark time right now where knowledge and information is being suppressed, like specifically in America with Trump trying to keep us as ignorant as possible. This feels very much like Noak and his folks coming after us.
Yeah.
It really, really makes you feel like the urge to be curious, be knowledgeable, how you have to arm yourself with information because you will be easily manipulated into a bad situation if you yourself don't have knowledge. Welcome, beautiful anime lovers, to another episode of the Most Potato Podcast. I'm Alvin.
I'm Jess.
And I say beautiful anime people because today we are going to be talking about the one and only,
One
the
Piece.
Magnanimous, the legendary
It's like
orb on the movements of the earth.
How would it be legendary?
The best new anime series to hit your screens this past year. It's anime of this year, anime of last year, and it's one of the best anime of all time. I'm not saying that lightly. Jess agrees, as you can tell, right? She agrees.
I am here against my will. I really am.
This was your idea. This episode was your idea, and you just have to know that you have to put up with me for like the next however many minutes we spend on this.
But I've been putting up with you for months, and it's like after this, I'll still be putting up with you.
That's how good Orb is, guys.
Anyways, oh my god.
I can't remember the last time I was this excited about an anime series. I think the last time might have been like Mob Psycho. I count that as one of the best anime of like all time. And I don't say this lightly, guys. I think a lot about what I watch. There's very few anime that make me feel the way that I feel about Orb. I did not expect this show to have such an impact on me. When I first came across it, I just kept skipping it on Netflix. I kept scrolling past it. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. The characters look kind of weird. It doesn't look very cool or cute or pretty. But then something just triggered me to just be like, you know what? Just try one episode. Just one. And then just get it out the way. You'll probably just skip on it, but at least you gave it a try. And then 25 episodes later, I'm just
harassing me. Yes.
After
he watches his little Nando Demo Saturdays, Nando Demo, he rewatches it like right after.
That's how good the show is. I've never rewatched a weekly episode. Like, I've never felt the urge to rewatch episodes every week, but this is a show where if you rewatch it, you get more out of it. There's more stuff to pull from it. There's things that I personally missed just from people talking to each other, and then you get more of an appreciation of what they're discussing or what's happening in each episode.
Oh, and I forgot, not only were you rewatching, but you also reading the manga along with it
simultaneously. It's up there in the top big leagues of anime that I've seen. It's up there with Full Metal Alchemist, with Vinland Saga, with Mob Psycho, Monster. I forgot about Monster. Oh my, Dr. Tenma.
Oh god.
Pluto. That's another really good one that no one talks about. Orb is one of those shows that reminds me of why I love anime. It's really just a one of a kind, once in a lifetime type of show, and I did not expect that. But enough about me. How did you feel about this series? Because you binge watched it.
I did.
And I watched you binge watch it.
You did. Oh man, I just watched it just to see if it was worth all this.
The hype. The hype.
And it wasn't. It was not. It's like, no, it's a good show. It's not my, thing really, but I sat through it all and I was able to enjoy it for what it was. I don't think it's bad. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I liked it.
Okay.
I liked it. Yeah, it makes you question a lot of things, and I appreciate that. I definitely do. I did watch the first episode in secret.
That's how this started.
And then the next day, I was just like, yeah, so why is Raphael going on with Hubert like this? And I will say all the names incorrectly. I just feel like it's easier.
Heretic. You're a heretic.
I'm a heretic?
Yes.
Okay. Sounds like a slur. But the earth is moving around the sun, maybe. I don't know. And I was just like, this is a good show. It's interesting. But I had to watch the episodes in secret because of him. It's just like, he's like literally around the corner, just like watching. And then he sits down as if it's the first time he's watching it. And I'm just
because
like,
that's how good it is.
It's not.
It is. This is peak fiction. This is what the kids say is peak.
Yeah, I hate peak, pika.
I always say it ironically, but this time I'm saying it unironically. This is, forget Solo Leveling, forget Attack on Titan, JJK. This is peak fucking fiction, and this is talkie anime. There's barely any violence, barely any action. It's all talking. And I think that's just showing my age because I'm more into the seinen manga at this point. Regardless of the demographic, this is one of the best stories that I've seen and read. And the fact that 90% is really just dialogue with just different characters having philosophical ideas about what it means to learn about new information and challenging old ideals. It worked. Like, I don't think you could do something like that live action where it's just a bunch of people talking philosophically about fucking Star.
I mean, you could. We would have that, but this...
You'd have to really sell it. Because with anime, you can exaggerate things like how characters talk and how they react to things.
You wouldn't have the anime fans watching this if this was just a live action.
No.
I don't feel like you would.
Let's get into the details now. So we're going to get into spoilers. So if you haven't watched this show yet, I don't know what you're doing with your life.
Oh, yes.
I don't know what you're doing with your life. Go watch this amazing show and then come back to this episode. You stop it. Let me push my propaganda.
He's terrible.
So let's get into Raphael's journey. Because the first 3 episodes is really the selling point for me. I did not expect to see what I witnessed by episode 3, which is Raphael dying. Like, rarely do we see like a main character die in anime. And like usually they come back in some sort of way.
Yeah.
But it was just like, 3 episodes. All right, you're gone. Bye. On to new characters. And I was like, wait, what? Like, what? And I'm like, of course, it's a seinen series. If this was a shonen series, then yeah, this kid would be alive.
All Might would have saved him.
All Might. All Helio. So, it just... By episode 3, that's when I knew I was hooked into this show. Because when he died, and it wasn't even like an accidental thing or a freak sort of accidental, avoidable thing. He chose to die.
Yeah.
He made an active choice to be like, nah, man, listen, like, I'm too much of a hard believer of heliocentrism. I can't imagine living the rest of my life having to hide how horny I am about heliocentrism.
Stupid.
Like, he really could have tried to live a life as an adult to secretly study astronomy while he studied religiosity or whatever the fuck it was called.
Theology,
there we go. I knew the word. I froze.
That's the one word I'm going to get right here.
He could have lived that life. He really, but I feel like that the first 3 episodes kind of just lays out the mood, the theme, like just the whole vibe of this show, where it's just like, if you really want to attain knowledge about the world in a time where that's going to be challenged by powerful people, you better be ready to just risk it all.
Yeah. Because
he really just decided, no, you know what? I'm just going to admit I'm a believer of heliocentrism. I'm not going to college. I'm not even going to stay and be tortured. I'm going to take these poppy pills into my drink and just expedite my departure from here.
Yeah, I think it's like, it's more shocking because he's, what, 12?
He's 12 years old, and he makes a decision to commit suicide.
Yeah, because, I mean, it was already, like, he's going to college, 12. Yeah. And amongst his class full of other young boys, everyone's just, like, praising him for that. He's very smart, but I just thought that was really crazy that he's just like, I'm standing on business. Like, he ripped his college application in front of the church, basically. They're just like, if you just apologize and say you're going to study, and he was just like, I'm not doing that. I don't think I will. Yeah, I thought that was really cool of him. That shook the shit out of the, what is Noak's occupation? He's Inquisitor?
Oh, the Inquisitors.
Yeah, he was just like
shook his adoptive father, Potoki.
Fuck Potoki. Fuck Potoki.
Like, 10% does not go to Potoki anymore.
Yeah, no, yours can, but not mine. Like, yeah, I was really amazed by him, but it was very jarring to see the character die, the main character, for 3 episodes. And you said, I was like, what do we do now? Who's next?
Yeah,
that sounds like who's next.
Who's next? Yeah, and I like that we got to get a full character arc for Raphael just within 3 episodes, because I think you and I are in agreement that he was kind of like a snobby kid, like kind of annoying. He was very arrogant in the beginning. He really thought of himself as like this great, wonderful person, and how he should just live a life of comfort and luxury and be admired by everybody, and how that just completely changes when he meets the heretic Hubert, and he basically just gets woke. He's like, listen, you think the earth is at the center of the universe? You thought. So I can only imagine being in a world where like there's no light pollution and you're just standing out there for hours just studying the stars, finding out that you're finding new information that really challenges your belief. Like the idea that the earth is moving is like such common knowledge to us. It's like nothing really.
Yeah.
So I really love that this anime took that approach of like, well, let's just go back in time to when that was like a huge discovery. And let's amplify this shit. Let's dramatize it the way that anime does. I really love that. And I love the short amount of time that we have with Hubert, because he's the reason why Raphael is awakened to this idea of like, I need to know why the earth is moving and how, and I need to spread this information. And I like that the show intertwines religion into this, because you would think that science and religion are like total opposites, but like there was a time in history where both of them were being used at the same time to try to make sense of the world. I really liked how he has the explanation of like, I think the universe is beautiful because God created it this way. God created Earth to move around.
Yeah. And
it's my job to let people know about that and to stop people from being afraid of that information. I don't know. How did you feel about the interaction with Hubert and Raphael when you first... Did you think he was going to be like a villain? Because they'd be drawing the heretics like scary-ass people.
Yeah, I mean, they're only scary-ass looking people because of all the torture they went through.
You could see, like, they hint at what type of torture
because the first episode previewed someone being tortured at the very beginning. Yeah, we'll get to him next. But, yeah, he looked very, like... He looked like a villain, and the way he just like
Frankenstein.
Yeah, the way he snatched up Raphael and was just like, I'm gonna kill you if you say anything. I was just like, are we good? Like, what is going on? Aren't you supposed to be like good now? Like,
yeah, you recanted.
Yeah,
why are you doing crimes?
What's going on? So I thought the interaction was really good because Raphael, that side of him, the religious side of him, and everything he's learned about heretics, he's thinking this guy's bad news. I'm not going to deal with him. I'm not going to listen to him, whatever. I'm not going to meet him out in this nice stargazing field that he mentioned. It's not my thing, whatever. I don't care. Yeah. But he shows up and he learns something. And, well, he more than learned something, I feel like. It's just like... it's
something
just,
casual, you know?
Something casual. But
the earth is moving.
I like their interaction because I like that Hubert just questioned him. Every time he said something, he'd slap him with a question, basically. Yeah. And he's just like, well, why do you think this? Why do you believe this? Does that make sense to believe? And just think about it this way. Then they had like, was it mountains or hills or something like that? The points. And he was just like, just think about this and how it moves. And do you move? Does this move? All these things he just started saying to Raphael, and I thought that was so funny when he finally like is walking away and he falls.
He slips on some mud.
Yeah, he slips. And the way he slipped, it was so funny and so dramatic. But I liked how they did that moment where it was just all like clicking, and he's just like, oh shit, I gotta go write this down.
A simple movement.
Simple, like I think I really liked that part. I was like, something as simple as that, and all the questions that he was asked, he put that all together, and he was just like, whoa, let me really think about this. Let me sit down and really think about this. So I appreciated that.
And when he went hard on that notebook, like Death Note.
Yeah.
I was waiting for the dramatic music and like the camera zooms on this notebook.
That was really funny. But I thought that was their interaction was very, very good. It sucked that, well, I guess it was good that Hubert sacrificed himself as long as he passed on the information. And I feel like that's like a really big thing too in the show. There's like a lot of deaths, a lot of sacrifices.
Yeah, this is like Game of Thrones, or even more expedited than that.
It's very expedited. It's not as gruesome. We don't see a lot, but it's just, for me, it kind of, it didn't, I want to say it bothered me, but lives don't really mean anything. Like the human lives, they don't mean anything. It's about the information, and it's about wanting to pass on this discovery, multiple discoveries, and studying what they're learning about the earth, and just the planets around them, the stars, but the lives, they don't really mean much, and that like bothers me. But I guess like the focus is passing on heliocentrism, and that's the main thing, and it's amazing to see how these characters really will do anything just to do that.
I think Yolenta would have some words with you debating about the meaning of life.
She's a weird little old lady child.
Yeah, but we can get to that later. But there's a very interesting conversation to be had about, do these characters' lives mean anything? Because spoiler alert, ultimately all of these characters, they end up dying and being lost to history, but the idea still survives.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that once we get into the later arcs. But that is a very prominent theme that starts with Raphael and just continues all the way through. And I like that there's people that can just debate about this, because at the end of the day, none of these characters have the answers to everything.
Yeah.
Even when it comes to the discussion of the meaning of your life, no matter how long or short it is, that's also up for debate. That's all based on your opinions, ultimately. Noak is also a character that's introduced in this arc, which he doesn't do that much in this arc, but we quickly get to know how interesting this guy is.
Yeah.
He seems kind of cold and villainous, like right off the bat.
I mean,
the dude, he kills and tortures people who basically challenge this church if anyone brings up any heretical ideas like heliocentrism. And I like his design. He's always covered in blood. Like, I don't know if you've noticed, his sleeves are always like bloodied whenever he's walking around. Rarely do we get to see his clothes be clean. I think the one time that he has clean sleeves is when he's with Yolenta at the bar.
Yeah.
In the second story.
Even in the flashbacks when she was younger too, like in the home. Yeah.
That's like the only time you'll see his sleeves clean, which I think is very telling about this character. But he has a very interesting conversation with Raphael towards the end when Raphael decides that he's going to take his own life. Noak is just confused and like low-key kind of angry at Raphael. He's like, why are you throwing your life away for this idea? What if your idea is wrong? Or like, what if your answer is wrong? And Raphael just drops like one of like the many bars that this show has, and he just goes, a wrong answer isn't a meaningless one. And I was like, damn. I should have said that every time I was wrong in class about something. That would have saved some of my grades. Yeah. I should have just said, a wrong answer isn't a meaningless one.
They're going to be like, get out of my classroom. Get out. Go.
And I like that rattles Noak. He's just like, what? And I think that question kind of stays with him throughout the whole show. Because I think later on it's revealed that he still thinks about Raphael. Even after all these years, he low-key feels some sort of like guilt for not thinking differently about what had happened with that child. So I really like how the introduction of Noak is sort of like this unanswered question throughout the story. It's like, is Noak going to change? Is he going to flip sides? Because at one point I thought he was going to low-key change sides. Yeah. Because of Yolenta. Because he does everything for his daughter. Like, his job is callous and it's cold, and that's why he doesn't tell her about it. So I really like that Noak, when he's introduced, he doesn't seem like a flat-out, just one-dimensional villain off the bat. There's some dimensions to him, and we get more into that in the second part of the story. How did you feel about Oaksy's introduction?
I mean, his introduction was interesting.
You were mad that he took over for Raphael.
I was. It just happened so quickly. And I mean, you mentioned a couple times that there's going to be like new protagonists. So I expected it, but it was jarring when it happened.
Yeah, it's unconventional.
We just go straight into someone else.
10 years later, by the way.
Yeah. And they do the time skip too. The time skipping was a little weird for me as well too. I don't know if it was all just moving forward. I think it was. But sometimes it felt like it was going back. And I think that was just the flashbacks. But it wasn't that hard to follow. Oaksy's story was interesting. I think he has a flashback talking about basically they are the center of the earth. I mean, the earth is the center of the universe. And God put us there and he's just looking down on us. So don't be looking at the stars because like we're just we're the bottom of the barrel. Basically, we're trash, we're garbage. But I was just like, but you said God put us in the center. Like, I'm confused. The church is confusing. That's what I'm getting from the show. And the church in the show is that it's confusing and it contradicts a lot of what it says. And it hides a lot of information too, because I think it's so interesting that they don't want people to know how the world works, how Earth works, how the universe works. But they know. Yeah. And they push the church, they push God, they push the religion, and they never once thought to like let it work together, which I don't understand. But for Oxy's story, that's how he is. Poor guy can't look at the sky at all because
he's been traumatized since childhood.
And it's weird because anytime he does think about it or he looks at it, you just see the big eyes just looking down at him, and you can just it's really creepy. I really liked that. So I thought that was interesting. And what does he do for a living?
He's like they call like a champion or something.
Champion.
He fights on behalf of like upper class people that have beef with each other. Which that on its own could be its own spin-off series, because I'm like, I want more of this world.
Yeah.
It's like, what? So-and-so has challenged you to a duel, so I'm fighting in his place.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
That was what was so confusing. We did a time skip. We have a new character, and I was just like, we just, this is what we do? Like, is that okay to do? Is that a new thing in the next 10 years that happens?
We kill out in these streets only after dark.
Basically. So he's just walking around with a mask, and he has a partner, Grass, who... They just go around doing these duels, and they sit down in a bar, and they're just like, yeah, life.
Stars, universe.
Yeah,
heaven.
That was really interesting. But yeah, how do you feel about Oxy when you were introduced to him? Like,
I was very unsure about him at first. I was like, come on, we got to do a new person. I'm like, this guy looks miserable. Like, his eyes look like he don't sleep for days. Like, he looks sad in the opening every fucking time. But I quickly took to him. I really liked, and I really appreciated that they kept changing the kind of personalities of each character. Every single protagonist is uniquely different from each other. This person is not an intellectual per se. He's not like an academic. He's basically kind of like lower working class.
I mean, he can't even read.
He's not able to read. Yeah. He starts to learn to read throughout the series. So he's an uneducated person who gets thrust into the world of education, which I think makes for a lot of interesting drama and a lot of character development. And I like that they set up that he has this trauma, that he has really good eyesight and that he used to enjoy looking at the stars, and that got taken away from him. Because going back to your observation of the church and like all the contradictions that come up with it, they specifically make sure that they introduce characters who either work for the church or who are just religious in general, who all have their different interpretations of what God means to them and what the placement of the earth means to them. Because you see religious people that genuinely interpret it in like a positive, like uplifting way. Even Hubert is like very uplifting because he only looks scary and intimidating because he's been like damaged by the upper ruling class of the church, because they're the ones that hold the power, so they gatekeep all the information. Only they're the ones that are allowed to really study the stars and stuff. They don't want like commoners or peasants to gain information. So the fact that Oxy comes from that world where he was basically just brutalized by the church and not feeling like he has anything to look forward to in this life, that gives him a really rich, fulfilling story arc. Because by the end of this arc, he's a totally different character. Yeah, this dude is right next to Badeni, and he's just like, man, heliocentrism is my faith. Like, if there's even a 0.011% chance that this idea can go and be spread to somebody else, then I think my life had meaning. Yeah, even though I'm getting cut short.
And his life, I guess, does have meaning, at least what he set out to accomplish at some point on his journey with Grass and meeting Badeni, because it's his simplified version of heliocentrism and just the whole idea that gets pushed up to the very end of the series. I mean, we'll get more into that.
That was fucking great.
Yeah, because like I said, he doesn't know how to read,
can't
write either. But at some point, he wants to write a book. Yeah. And
shout out to Yolenta for educating him.
Yes. Thank you, Yolenta. And Badeni, you're disrespectful as fuck. But yeah, no, I thought that was really interesting. And that's what makes Oxy's character very important to the overall story. Because, and the idea of pushing heliocentrism and getting it out to everybody, his simplified version of what he understands as someone who was never in the church like that to be educated. It's interesting that his story or his version of it is the one that gets pushed. His
and not
simplified,
Badeni's
notes. Badeni's notes would have made me feel stupid. Like, I would have just been like, I can't read it right either.
Yes. and I think Badeni was like the perfect co-protagonist because they share a lot of screen time, him and Oxy. He's sort of in opposition to Oxy, where Badeni first of all, I love Badeni, but he's just an asshole. Let's acknowledge that he's kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah.
He's kind of emblematic of the problem with the church, which is, again, the gatekeeping of information, not wanting to allow like everybody to be educated, and also just wanting all the glory for himself. He's basically like that to the very end.
Yes.
He really just flat out says, I don't care about sharing my results with anybody. I want the credit. I want the recognition. You, Oxy, you're just a common peasant-ass, fucking dumbass piece of shit that doesn't need to know anything.
Yeah, he was like, fuck you, Oxy. Fuck Patoki. He's like, it's only big me. That's it.
and yeah, Badeni is definitely a very problematic person, and he's very classist from what we can see. He's very classist because he continues to belittle Oxy's desire to want to start learning about.
He laughed in that man's face. Like, he was just in pure disbelief. He could not believe. He said, you want a what?
Write a book?
Oh, man. I cracked up at that part because I was just like, is he really
funny.
like...
He's this rude.
He's like, that was so disrespectful. Even little Yolenta too. She had a moment where she was just like,
she's like, oh, that's funny. You want to? Well,
that's
like, cute. That's nice. That's
she's
nice.
like, maybe
you
I'll help you.
That.
Yeah, let's,
But at least she was like actually encouraging and actually helped him.
She did. But
she had the initial like bias too.
Yes,
but
even her. I was just like, stop it, girl. Stop it.
That was so funny. But I really liked that there was that moment of clashing between Badeni and Oxy when it was time to get the hell out of that cabin.
Oh yeah.
When they like finally like locked in that heliocentrism theory because they knew the Inquisitors were coming, and they just have this fucking debate, like knowing damn well that these people are about to be on their asses any minute. And Oxy's like, don't you think you should be sharing information? Because if you hoard all the information to yourself, you're more likely to be wrong if you don't have other people checking your stuff. This is coming from a man who's never been a scholar. He's inventing peer-reviewed journaling to Badeni right now.
Yes.
Which is common practice right now. And Badeni's like, I'm listening, but also I don't agree. We can talk about this later.
Was this before or after, what's the guy's name? That old guy. Piast.
This was after the whole thing with Piast where they...
So he saw what Piast went through, like how Piast basically did the same exact thing.
And he died for a theory that ended up being completely wrong.
Wrong, yeah. So, and he took on someone else's theory. He didn't question it. He didn't try to change it. Maybe he did have some doubts, but he never pursued them up until like his old ass was ready to die.
And he met Badeni and Oxy.
And they saw and they proved, and he's like, you're lie. And he was just like, I know you're not a lie, but you're lie. and then he dies. But yeah, and that was really interesting that you say that, because Badeni stopping and being like, this no reading ass motherfucker's right or whatever, but I'm not gonna tell him that.
Yeah.
But yeah. And because they saw it. They experienced someone who is doing the exact same thing as Badeni.
Yeah, the dangers of hoarding that information and not communicating with other people and sharing that and being a collective. Because I'm glad that you brought up Piast, because that was a really good foreshadowing of what's to come. The fact that Piast spent his whole life trying to like prove the geocentric model from something he inherited from his teacher, and then just to be met with the truth that, damn, this was wrong. But he also died knowing like, damn, at least I know what the truth is now. So at least he gets that comfort.
I don't want him to have no comfort.
Damn.
Like, he's mad. Like,
Piast is a really interesting character. He's complex. He has the problem that the church has, which is like, he wants to hoard stuff for himself. He wants to be the one true person that knows everything. But he's also like, he's open to new ideas, which is why he invites these three characters to challenge his idea, so that he can finally get to like the truth of this.
And he told Yolenta, like, you need
to come to me.
Submit your work yourself. Because...
So he's low-key kind of a feminist. Like, so I'm not ready to rule out Piast yet. Yeah, he was arrogant and shit, but he at least finally came to like some understanding of truth at the end of his life, and he was more open-minded than Badeni was. So Badeni had to like really wait until he was facing death to really just be like, damn, all right, I'm gonna have to change up my method.
Yeah.
I really love that this arc really focused on specifically the theme of working together to get the information that you need and being able to share it, and that being the priority of make this knowledge available to everybody, because there's no harm in that. If there is a harm to anyone, it's to the church, and it's really a harm to their power. it doesn't hurt them to have people that are educated. That's just because they want to have control.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that are causing poverty. Like, it doesn't get explored into super detail, but they make it obvious that the churches are the ones that are in power. They're like the richest ones around. And they're the reason why we have uneducated people who are out in the streets. Raphael was fucking an orphan. We didn't mention that.
Yeah.
He was an orphan before he got adopted by Potoki. So he was dying because the church is just right there hoarding money and knowledge as well.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, because while Badeni and Oaksy were working together, he was giving Oaksy like food. He's like, oh, here's your portion for the day or whatever. And at one point Oaksy asked him for a little bit more. He's just like, what? Nah, you don't need to eat. Like, what are you eating? So he's like, I'm working real hard. He's like, I don't care. Build that tunnel or dig that tunnel. Come to find out, Oaksy was actually giving it to the homeless people.
Just because.
And but then he was kind of rude about it. He's like, what? You think you good because of this or whatever?
Think you're going to heaven?
And I was just like, damn. I was like, can we just feed some
Are you
people?
not a man of the church?
Contradictions. And that's why I was just like, what?
That's also another theme in this anime. Is the contradictions that we hold as humans.
Because I don't know if it was him or if it's just, and there was another character in the church where they're just like, yeah, feeding the poor, that doesn't do anything for them. That doesn't do anything for you. And I was just like, aren't you guys supposed to
be for the poor?
like help people, like guide people? So that was funny. But doesn't he use these same homeless people to write
Oaksy's notes
onto
their heads, it all pays off. That relationship that Oaksy had with those homeless people, but then he foresaw that and he just anticipated it. He just decided, we'll spread heliocentrism, but first of all, it can't even be my notes. My notes are way too dense. So the fact that it ends up being Oaksy's simplistic writing that spreads that idea, just beautiful. I loved it because it gives more power to people that previously did not have that power.
Yeah,
and I love that it was a gamble too, because the homeless people they go back and forth on like, do we go and find this person that man told us about? Because I don't trust this Badeni guy, but the Oaksy guy was nice.
Yeah,
and he gave us food, so maybe we should just go. So that takes us to another time skip. I think it's like another 15 years or something like that. So now we focus on Draa, who I didn't know what to make of her, because she was like even more different than the last two characters. Like, she's nowhere near the church. She's not someone who's a student. She's just a nomad. I think her and her people are supposed to be like Romani, because they're like kind of brown, so they got like some seasoning to them. So I don't think they're like fully white. I really like the Draa character. I heard from other people that have watched on YouTube that some people felt that they were more disconnected with the Draa character, because they were more fixated on the characters that were like actively learning about heliocentrism. Here, this is the first character that isn't really learning about it. She reads a book that she ends up finding that Oaksy's writing, which ultimately came from like the scalps of the homeless people. So it looks like a book was able to be printed out, but it's only one little book.
Yeah.
And she knows right away that this is like, holy shit, this is a huge deal. But like, she wants to market off of it. She quickly shows that she's like basically a capitalist. Which I found really fascinating. Her backstory was really interesting because she basically comes from nothing, and she's kind of helping this nomad society be held together. She's the one that creates the idea of like, if we can make cloth, like we can sell and we can get money. And the village leader is like always resistant to her trying to grow her ideas of basically just creating more competition and ultimately making...
Yeah, she's like, some of these motherfuckers around here are lazy, and I feel like we should pay them less, and like whoever's working harder should get more money. I was just like... Which
is cold, but I also kind of understood where she was coming from too.
Yeah, everyone was... They were dividing everything equally so everyone could have, and I mean, like, even if they did continue to do things the way they were, I don't see what was wrong with like them producing materials like she mentioned, so that way they could have more money, then they all can be a little bit more comfortable. But then she's like, some of y'all shouldn't be getting paid what you're getting paid.
That's where I have a problem. I was like, okay, you're thinking very much like a capitalist. Which I understand where she's coming from, because she's coming from poverty and she wants to finally live a life of comfort. And sadly, this is kind of the route that she's taken, which, again, it's understandable. And I can see her frustration in paying people that don't do as much labor as other people. But I think I also like that the uncle kind of keeps her in check as well when he mentions like, well, yeah, you could do that, but if you increase that at a really exponential rate, you're gonna create more suffering for people who are not working and not being able to make money. You're just gonna leave people behind to suffer still.
Yeah,
which is basically what we got today in America and other capitalist countries. And I like that the coins that she has is not just a fixation of money. It's a personal thing for her because it's the last thing that her father left to her before he died. So I think that connection makes me get a little more behind her reasoning why she wants to make money.
Yeah.
There's like a reason. It's like my father died because he didn't have money, so that means we have to make money to live.
Yeah.
And God, that's painful to think about.
That's her trauma.
Things pick up really quick when she encounters the heretic liberation front.
Schmidt.
Yeah, the Captain Schmidt character is really cool. I loved his introduction.
Really? I could not stand him. I did not like him from the jump.
I like how funny he was. I like how obnoxious he is. But yeah, you mentioned that you have some beef with Captain Schmidt. How do you feel about his character overall?
No, he was just annoying, especially when he's just like, oh shit, the sun's coming up, guys. He's like, let's just stand out here. And then everybody's just like, is he done yet? And then Draka's just like, what's the point? Why are you doing all this?
Yeah.
But I do like Draka and Schmidt's like relationship.
Their dynamic is really interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's funny.
When they first get to know each other, it's really funny.
Yeah, because he's just like, I don't agree with what you're saying, and it's making me mad. I'm enraged, but go ahead, keep talking. And like, you know,
like civility.
Yeah, he's like, he's chill about it. He's just like, I don't agree, but you saying something, and let's have a discussion about it. Like that's how we do things, people. We just don't.
Which is refreshing to see because that doesn't happen often in reality.
Yeah, it
usually ends up in heated ass debates. It might even end in physical violence.
Exactly. So it's just like, why can't we just do that? So I thought that was a really funny moment for him, and I think that's when you know, I started to warm up towards him because I was like, that's funny, that's real of him.
Yeah, his whole personality is really fascinating. And I really thought that his conviction was really fascinating. He's a religious person, but he just doesn't like church doctrination. He does not believe that humans fully understand God and that anything that they try to do through the church is too artificial. He's more of like a naturalist. Like he just, like you said, he bathes in the sun and he says he feels God that way.
Yeah.
And he doesn't believe that church is necessary, and he thinks that it's a poison, really. Can't really blame him based on what I'm seeing in this series.
No, he's not wrong based off of how they show the church in the series leading up until Draka and his story. But yeah, I could see, like, I was behind like what his beliefs were and what he was saying for the most part, because it made sense just of all like the wickedness that the church did, and that they probably still continue to do. It makes it like I can see why he's like this, and it makes room for a change in the church and the way that people can believe as well too, instead of just having the old way that the church was when we first were introduced to it in the beginning of the series. I was like, this can evolve as well too, just like knowledge and discovery will evolve as well too. There should be nothing wrong with that. But then you have the Noaks of the world trying to, you know, keep it all the same. Yeah.
I also was shook that Yolenta came back because we didn't talk about this previously, but she was reported dead to Noak when she was caught by the Inquisitors saying that, oh yeah, you were hanging out with Badeni and Oaksy, you gotta go.
Oh yeah.
And then the little brown-haired kid ended up freeing her. We see that she's back now as like a 39-year-old woman. Seeing that she's the leader of the Liberation Front, that reveal was really badass. I don't know, what did you think of Yolenta's return in this arc?
I wasn't expecting it, but when it was revealed, it made sense because I think for me, when at the end of Oaksy's arc, when they said that she did die, and that's what they told Noak, I was just like, she's alive. She could come back at any moment when she wants to, because they know that she's alive, and they ended up using the guy that helped help her escape as the body that was being burned, so Noak wouldn't know the difference. I'm like, how come she doesn't come back? Why does she come back? But it's like,
it's not safe for her to come back.
It's not safe for her to come back. Does she know? Does she realize what Noak's job is at
Yes,
that point
because
too.
when-
So it's just like,
when she gets taken into questioning, the kids tell her like, "Oh yeah, your dad's an inquisitor. We work for
oh
him."
yes. So she knows that, and he does his job pretty well. So will she be like, Dad, it's me, Yolenta?
Yeah, she wouldn't go back home. She would not come back.
You know,
she would end up being a freedom fighter.
Yeah, so I wasn't surprised when it was revealed that she was the leader of this liberation group. It made sense. I did want her to reveal herself to Noak in a different way. I wanted them to reunite.
I did too. I was waiting for like a more conventional.
Yeah,
reunion.
I mean the way they did it in this arc.
I thought this was better. As much as it hurt me,
really,
I thought it was better.
I wanted a little bit more. I wanted.
Longer eye contact.
Yes, longer eye contact, so that way they can realize who. Oh shit! Like that's my dad, and he's like my Yolenta, my Shayla. Yeah, that's what I was hoping for in that moment. So I didn't love that part so much. I wanted. Yeah, I was hoping for. I would have wrote that a little.
Wanted
differently.
more emotion, more drama, more passion.
Yes,
more energy.
More footwork. You know,
there's handwork.
Handwork. That sounds weird.
I take that back.
Yeah, no, I wanted a little bit more because I think I wanted Noak to hurt a little bit more. I wanted it to hurt him, or I wanted him to have like this, I don't know, like this epiphany or something where he's just like, that's my daughter and she's good, so maybe heliocentrism isn't all that bad.
Yeah, no, this show's brutal. It doesn't give us
in his
that.
ways. Yeah, he's yeah.
I think I really appreciate this approach. As much as I wanted it to go the other way too, I'm glad that it went this way. Because I like how sometimes this show just takes the more realistic route. It sometimes doesn't give you the most satisfying emotional beat, but it gives you something that really makes you think for a longer time. Because there was a conversation that Yolenta had with Draa previously before this moment. She briefly mentioned, like, you know, I even think about my father, and I think about what would I do in the moment if I ever reunite with him again. And I fear that moment because I feel like I might lose my grip on my mission and maybe give up on that. And I think that was like the foreshadowing of what was to come. So because I think if we had that longer moment that you mentioned, she might have just given up and not blown herself up and used herself as a diversion and ultimately just compromised the mission. So I really like that there's just that brief, very brief moment where you see a close-up of her eyes and a close-up of Noak's eyes, and they look like they lock on each other. And it looks like maybe they acknowledge each other, but you can't be sure. Like, I don't think it's ever 100% confirmed before she just, like, blows herself half to hell.
I mean, he could have realized it was her. She didn't have to see that he was there because she already knows that he's alive. Or, I mean, I'm surprised.
Well, she doesn't know.
She doesn't know.
Yeah.
But when she ran away, he was alive. So she knew that he was out there. But I don't know. She could have like smiled so that way he could see the missing tooth that they pulled out.
She did have a smile. We just don't know if she was smiling at him or just smiling.
No, she didn't have to smile at him. It could have just been a smile in general. He's like, that's my gap tooth baby. Oh my God. And then she blows herself up.
I mean, she saw all the flashbacks showing up in the sky and she smiled before the explosion. So I think that counts.
I guess. Yeah.
I really like that they went that route. It hurts more. It's not as satisfying, but it hurts even more. And it also is satisfying in a way where she was like, she followed through on her conviction. She didn't waver. And then it just leaves Noak sort of like, was that? Was she?
Yeah.
Let me keep this hand so I can confirm later.
I missed that part, but when he pulled it out later, I was just like, you're nasty. It was weird. But no, yeah, after she blows herself up, Noak then is in pursuit of Draa and Schmidt, who get away, but Schmidt doesn't make it all the way to
oh my God, when they get to that ultimate battle, when they sacrifice themselves. Yeah, because the printing press mission didn't work out, so then they had to get Draa out of there. And yeah, that I did not think that someone like Captain Schmidt would lose to Noak, because Noak looks low-key just washed. He's so old, you would think that he would win.
But it wasn't just Noak. He had other
other Inquisitors with him.
So it wasn't a fair fight.
Yeah.
But
I was mad when Captain Schmidt died. I was like,
yeah, I was
my boy.
so
I knew
upset.
it was coming. was nobody lives in this show.
Yeah.
But I was really hurt.
I was upset because then Noak's just like, look at you, just dying for this all this nonsense, and he's just like, well, it's my choice, and I'm gonna die this way. This is what I do. And I was just like, he's so cool.
That bites him in the ass later when
I know.
He said, well, that's the fate I chose.
Yeah.
That's the fate I chose.
I was just like, damn. I was like, you cool. I'm sorry I hated you in the beginning.
And then we get to the point where we're at the church where Draa is trying to meet with Antony. And I love how they just keep these characters connected from previous
He's
arcs.
the one that
he was heavy hating on Noak, talking about like, my father's so fucking stupid. The bishop is so stupid for wasting money on you stupid ass inquisitors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then now he's the bishop of his town. Oh my god, when it gets to the moment where Draa is trying to sell the heliocentrism idea to him, and she locks in the deal. It's like, all right, they get what they want. The heliocentrism spreads, and we get to reap in the benefits, some money. It's going to go perfect.
Yeah. It's
going to be great. And the conversation was fascinating, too, how they just talked about, like, Antony, I'm sorry, but the church is losing power in society. You need to get with the times. Mm-hmm. There's a 14-year-old girl telling you, get with the times. It's all about the money. Like, it's about to get capitalistic in here, so let's get ahead on this so that both of us are out of this alive and comfortable.
Oh, out of this alive.
Spoke
too soon.
Yeah, so that was a really fascinating conversation of just Antony just admitting and accepting, like, yeah, the church is losing power. The world is getting more secular. There's less and less people turning to church and God, and they need more things. And then that just gets completely destroyed when Noak's hating ass, auto ass.
I know, he's like, there will be no rebranding here. Like, like, would you go away?
Antony's like, but the heliocentrism, like, it's bad.
He's like, fool, are you stupid? That ain't even, like, what are you talking about? Nobody cares.
We're past that.
Yeah. He's like, oh, man.
Heliocentrism is in. Just get with the times.
Like, literally.
Knowledge is in.
Oh, man, he was broken from that. He's just like, wait, but he's like, this is my whole life. No.
Oh, my God. Yeah, seeing Noak completely shook to his core, it made me laugh, but it also made me kind of sad for him because...
No, we don't do that. We don't be sad for Noak. No whack.
Nah, because Noak is kind of like a victim of circumstance, and... We see that with the hallucination that he has of Raphael when he starts to pass away, where basically everybody was they were like a chess piece on a board game. Everybody had their own beliefs, and it set them on specific paths. Because Noak never thought to reconsider what he believed in life, he just stayed on this road thinking, like, if I just keep doing this job for the church, I'm going to be fine. My daughter's going to be fine. That wasn't true. That ended up costing you your daughter's life. Like, you mourned your daughter for so many years thinking that she was dead.
Yeah.
And then you finally reconnect with her, and then you lose her for real because you're fighting this idea that's just, it's inevitable. And Raphael, he alludes to that in the beginning. He said, your enemy is the truth. Your enemy is new ideas. That's who you're scared of. You're not scared of me. And the fact that he has to come to terms with that, and it connects back to his encounter with Schmidt right before he dies, where Schmidt tells him, at least I chose my fate. That was like a dig at Noak, because Noak never chose what path he wanted to be on. He just stayed complicit with where he was.
Yep.
He just stayed with the status quo because he thought that was right. He thought that was going to be there forever. And then just for Antony to come and be like, yeah, we're going to erase all data that we have of you Inquisitors and what you did, and we're also erasing all the information of the heretics. Like, that's going to be gone by tomorrow morning. Your whole life's work is gone, and that's after you lose your daughter. It's low-key funny, but at the same time, it broke me because I'm like...
I'm like that good. That good. You're like that sin. I'm like that good.
So you clearly have no sympathy for this man.
Nope.
I think if we didn't have all the interactions he had with his daughter Yolenta, I'd be more like cold towards him because they go out of their way to really flesh him out as this very well-rounded person. He's not like a mustache twirling villain. He is the villain of the story. He admits it to himself, but he's a understandable villain. Like, when you see the moments with his daughter, you understand that he loves this person unconditionally. When he has that moment where he lashes out at her when she blames God for the gloves not fitting on her, and then he corrects himself afterwards. He's like, why did I lash out at my daughter? She's crying. My priority should be comforting her, not prioritizing or fixating on what God thinks of her statement.
Yeah.
And you can see that he is a good father. Like, the fact that he does this terrible, awful job, he's a really good, loving father. And I think those moments like that made me sympathize with this person, because I'm like, you could have had a whole life with your daughter.
I feel like you could pity him. I pity him, and that's as much as he's gonna get from me, is the pitying
That's fair.
of him. But yeah, no, it is true. You could have been like totally cold towards him if we didn't have the scenes with him and his daughter, where we had those moments where, like you said, when the gloves didn't fit and she got upset and he lashed out at her. That was a moment that he needed to carry out for like the rest of his life, that he didn't, where he stopped and questioned, why am I, yelling at her when she's clearly upset about something. But he's just like, no, God is, all this.
Yeah.
I pity someone like that.
Yeah.
But also, goodbye. So.
And he keeps asking Raphael, like, do you know what, if my daughter is in heaven or something?
He's like, I'm in your head. Shut up.
I just told you. I don't know shit. I'm you.
Yeah.
And you are me. We are we. So I like that he just accepts everything that he's done. And then he pulls out the hand, which I really was shook when he pulled out the hand. Yeah. I forgot that he took that with him.
You're nasty.
And then he put it on Yolenta's glove, and when it fit perfectly, him breaking down was just like that. I think you deserve some pity from me, because that was a heartbreaking scene. Just him sitting in a burning church and then just praying to God, like, please, like, if heliocentrism wasn't a sin, please take whatever sins I've passed on to her and just throw it back at me and send me to hell. Make sure that she goes to heaven.
Will. Yeah,
that was just a beautiful, heartbreaking moment. I think that was a really great finale for this character. I was really expecting him to do a 180 and be like, nah, I'm woke. I'm all about heliocentrism now.
Not too late.
But this is a way better outcome than him changing his mind, I think. I think I prefer this. And then we get Draka's death, too, which also pained me, because I'm like, damn, it's another fucking kid.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about her death as she was slowly dying in front of that rock, taking in the sun like Captain Schmidt?
I was okay when she started taking in the sun, honestly.
That was a nice, warm,
it was a good
moment.
I feel like that's a good moment. It was a good moment for her, because she finally, like you said, she's taking in the sun, like Schmidt mentioned, and she's finally understanding it, because she didn't feel like there was a point to anything like that. All she wanted to do was make money, because that was going to make her life better. But now she's gone through all this stuff just by picking up a book. Yeah. And flipping through a book and joining this group and just pushing this information out there and making sure it gets there. Like, that's the last thing that she did. And I feel like that was enough for her. And she was able to actually sit down. I mean, she had no choice but to sit down. Yeah. She was actually able to sit down and be like, okay, it is okay to basically bask in this and just sit here for a moment and not worry about everything else, because nothing else mattered to her. Like you said earlier, her dad died because they didn't have enough money. None of that matters to her at this point. Just getting that information out there, if that's the last thing that she can do, because she knows that she is dying. Yeah. Yeah, and then it goes back to her when she said that she's basically like, she's afraid of being in the sun, because it basically highlights all the truths about you. You can't hide from the sun. Yeah. And she has a lot of pain and a lot of, like, I think, guilt and a lot of shame that she wants to hide. And that's why she felt uncomfortable being able to openly cry in front of her family, because she felt like she was being judged because she's not appreciative of God's, like, grand plan. So I think that was a nice poetic moment of her just being accepting of that son, even if it is the last thing that she does. Yeah. It was really sad. I'm glad that she had some sort of solace, because she kept questioning, like, was my life of any value? Which goes back to, like, Yolenta's belief, where it's just like of all the struggles that I've been through, I don't think my life is meaningless, because I believe that I can carry this mission forward, and if I can pass this on to somebody else and I die young, then I feel like I've accomplished something still. For Draa to send out that message that really just says, give 10% of this book revenue to Potoki, which means nothing to the person that it gets to. Yeah. That ultimately ends up being a chain reaction that is productive, because even though none of these characters are remembered in history, they'll never be mentioned, and they all lived very short lives. That idea ultimately ended up getting passed on to the final protagonist, Albert,
which I thought was really cool. I thought it was kind of clever because it reaches him in a really indirect way. And we see that Raphael exists, like a tall adult Raphael.
I was like, so he escaped. The poppy seeds didn't work. But it was like, how many years later? He should have been like a little older and had a little less hair.
Yeah. I thought that was crazy. What did you think when you first saw that Raphael figure come in?
I was confused. You were watching it and I wasn't caught up yet, and you were confused.
You probably heard me yell across the room.
Yeah, you were definitely like, what's going on, and trying to make sense of it. I think you even talked to me about it a little bit, and I didn't get to that point yet. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I don't understand how in the opening he did not realize that was Raphael. I don't like. He's like, oh, it happened so fast.
It's such a quick shot.
It is not a quick shot. It is clearly.
I did not know adult Raphael was in the opening this whole time.
The whole 23 episodes, 24 episodes, he did not. How many times you watch and listen to this opening?
It is such a quick shot.
It is not. It is so obvious.
It's a blink if you miss it type of scene.
Anyways, it's clear as day that man was standing there in the shots. I thought it was very like strange that they used him. It's like the exact same.
It's literally like exact
it's
same
him
character
taller,
design.
just yeah.
It's him if he
same
lived.
voice too, which was weird. I was like, isn't this like an adult Raphael?
You
like
know how anime be.
Yeah, I don't know, but
Luffy
it was
is voiced
weird.
by a 70-year-old woman.
No, that's different. And that doesn't shush. Just make sure you watch One Piece. Yeah, no, it was very strange for me to see. At first I was like, is it him? And I was like, doesn't make sense because of all the time that's passed. And then I was like, maybe he's supposed to represent something that I'm not understanding. Hopefully, as I watch some more. And
I think you're on the mark with that.
I think that's like how it is, because you mentioned like we should just like interpret it.
The author leaves it to interpretation.
They could have picked any person to be Albert's teacher.
Why gotta be Raphael?
Why
this Raphael variant, who in theory, if he was in fact alive since the first episode, he'd be in like his 40s or 50s. Mm-hmm. He'd be much older than what he looks like right now.
Yeah, so I was very confused about that, but I went with it. And that's all you can do is go with it. It wasn't anything that threw off the story so much, except for oh shit, is that Raphael?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was really jarring too. And I didn't know what to make of it either. Mm. And I ultimately thought, damn, we're in an alternate universe right now. I thought that's the situation that we were in. Mm-hmm. But we're not. And I'm glad that we're not. Because one, we see that a character receives the message for Potoki. And then two, the priest in the confessional booth is low-key covertly revealed. They never confirm, because this character doesn't even have a name either.
I just like how you said that. It was really funny. We think that it is the guy that...
The Inquisitor boy, the blonde-haired one.
Yeah, the blonde-haired one that was there when they were torturing Yolenta.
Yes.
Because it was two guys. They were basically in training, and the one that they took and burned on the cross was to cover and make it seem like it was Yolenta. But this guy, he just stood there and didn't do anything. And when he said, "Oh yeah, I have like some regrets," or I threw a friend, whatever.
He left a friend for dead.
He left the friend. I was going to say he threw him on the bus, but they didn't have buses back then. But but yeah, I instantly assumed it was him.
Okay.
Yeah, but they don't say. But I'm just assuming that it's that guy. Yeah,
because they never reveal his face. They just give you like a silhouette, and you see his hair. You see that it's like a blondish.
Yeah.
It's kind of cut in a similar way. I think I'm 100% definitely on the fact that this is definitely that same boy. Mm-hmm. And those two things basically confirm that this is still the same timeline. There's no alternate universe. Having to contend with the fact that there's another person that looks exactly like Raphael and has the same name, I just took it as like, all right, this is something for the audience to connect with and not necessarily for that world. Because there's no characters that are going to recognize a kid from like 30 plus years ago who died, because that news doesn't travel like that. This Raphael was very fascinating because he tells young Albert to just always be inquisitive, always be curious. When Raphael tells Albert to feel talmazine, and it just seems like a really innocent thing to tell a child. It's like, don't listen to your dad talking about like, oh, always doubt yourself and hold back if you need to. It's just be curious about everything. And if you feel that itch of knowledge, just feel it. Let that talmazine in and go find that information.
Yeah.
And he says like a quick sly thing where he's like, I would give anything to have the truth of the world, even at the cost of a life. And I didn't pick up on that right away, But when we find out later that he ends up killing Albert's father because he's hoarding information that he wants.
I was just like, Raphael, what's going on? But you're not. But like, what? I don't get it.
I was shook. I'm like, okay, so you meant at the cost of a life, not your life, at the cost of somebody else.
So I'm like, this is definitely a different Raphael, because the other one, it was at the cost of his life.
It's not the Raphael I know.
Yeah.
Not my Raphael. Yeah, and then there's also a moment when he talks to Albert, when he drinks the water before he says that line. It's like kind of like a callback to when Raphael drank the poison. Mm-hmm. Like, that's nuts. Like, how did you think you were going to get away with this crime?
Yeah.
He just stood there at the scene and then was looking at Albert. It's like, if I explain this to you, you're going to be cool with my reasoning. just hear me out for a second.
Yeah.
And he's a foreshadowing too. He's like the flip inverse of Noak. If you're somebody that's like too devoted to something to the point where you're willing to sacrifice other people, that makes you a bad person, whether it's for religion or for science or for anything else. I think that was also kind of why they wanted to use the Raphael image, is to just bring it home on like the dangers of putting too much faith into one single thing and not balancing yourself out with different perspectives, which, I mean, it's kind of like a callback to Fullmetal Alchemist where we see that people who are too devoted to science end up doing very fucked up things.
Yeah, y'all know what I'm talking about. Wow.
So I was really fascinated with the backstory that Albert carried. And I like that he just was able to come to a resolution just by having a conversation with the priest, who's someone who has his own like dilemmas to deal with.
Yeah, because the priest didn't even have all the answers, and he acknowledged that as well too.
Yeah, which I appreciated.
He's just like, I'm just sitting here, but if you want to talk, like, I don't got all the answers, but you know, maybe it's good to just get it off your chest. Basically, that's just how it went. And
I love that.
I like that after they both talk and even the priest confesses his sin, he gets somewhere. He's like, you know what? I'm going to go to school. I'm going to learn something.
And that's when Albert ends up walking past these two people, and he overhears them reading the note that Draa ended up sending over to them. And then he overhears the title of the book that they talk about, which is On the Movements of the Earth. And that one title that he hears just triggers him to just stop in his tracks and then just be like, huh, Nando Demo indeed.
Oh gosh, I cannot deal with you. Are we done? We're done.
Then we just get this ending text that just explains, like, yeah, this is Albert Brodzuski, I don't know how to pronounce his name, who was a real life like teacher in astronomy, and then he had written like his thoughts on the possibility of heliocentrism, and that ended up leading to Nicholas Copernicus being like, let me run with this shit, and then he ends up proving the model. Like, he's a real life historical figure who proves that. So I'm glad that they went this route and not making like Copernicus an anime character, but I think that would be kind of cool too. But I really love that this is how it ends, even though like it feels like the end of a biopic when you just get like text of like, okay, this is what happened, this person died on this day. Yeah It kind of felt like that, which kind of felt not the most satisfying, but I think this is like the most creative historical fiction that I've seen in a while. I don't know, how did you feel about the ending?
No, I think it's interesting that you say that, because all these characters, Raphael, Oxy, Badeni, Draa, Schmidt, all of them, even Noak, they're basically like, they're not written anywhere. They're erased,
they're
whatever.
forgotten in time.
And then we get to Albert, who is a known name, who is going to be written, who does write something, and that passes along as well too. I just thought that was really interesting that they stated too, when he was talking, when Noak and Draa were in the church and it was burning, that they were going to be erased, that we're not going to have any of this. No one's going to know about this, but we're going to be able to push this idea along, this information along. I just thought that's interesting that, okay, we got to the point where people are open enough. It's getting spread where people are able to study this and put it out there. And now we have a name on it, but it's just like there's so much behind this one person and what they are going to put out there in the world, their name that's going to be on it. There's so much behind them. Yeah. And we don't even know it. So I liked that. I like that idea of just like how many people, for whatever reasons, their name couldn't be put down on paper, on a book. For so many reasons, they couldn't be put there, but they're there. And that's what led to this one person giving us this information and giving someone an idea to write something else and discover something else.
Yeah, and it just focuses on, it just brings it back to that theme of inspiration. The fact that Raphael chose inspiration over lifespan, like that is a bold decision to make, to just be able to sacrifice anything just so that you can continue to inspire other people, because like this idea is important. It can't die. People are they need this. They need to be more informed about how the world works and new ways of thinking and new ways of operating in the world. This show, it feels very timely. I think this show hits very hard for me too, because we're in a really dark time right now where knowledge and information is being suppressed, like specifically in America with Trump trying to keep us as ignorant as possible.
And it's scary how easily it's done.
It can be quickly deleted or blocked or something.
Yeah.
He wants the CDC to no longer update us on any types of infections, including COVID, which is still a thing. Like, he wants to make sure that we don't know our rights when he wants to apprehend people that he just doesn't agree with or doesn't like. This feels very much like Noak and his folks, like, coming after us.
Yeah.
And the fact that this show just, like, tackles the theme of anti-intellectualism and how that's a thing that just historically happens in cycles, and right now it's very aggressive with what we're dealing with right now. It really makes you feel like the urge to be curious, be knowledgeable, and how you have to arm yourself with information, because you will be easily manipulated into a bad situation if you yourself don't have knowledge, and you have to share that knowledge with people too.
Yeah,
because hoarding it for yourself, that's clearly not going to work out well for you. You're just going to end up hung.
Let's start. So, I feel like I already know, but what do you?
The most potato.
Yes.
It gets the most potato. Okay. That's my grade. That's it. That's all I gotta say.
Okay. I'll give it a loaded potato.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I'm baking it. A little bit of salt. That's it. No, I'll give it a loaded potato. It was good. It was a good show. I can appreciate it. I feel like a weight's lifted off me.
Nope, it's just going to keep happening.
Oh, God.
Yes. Nando Demo forever.
You need
but
help.
we would really like to know what your thoughts are on this anime. There's so much that we didn't touch on, because this would be like a 3-hour plus podcast. But let us know all your thoughts in the comments below. Did you like this anime? Have you even heard of this? What are all your thoughts, your theories, your opinions, your beliefs, your convictions? We want to hear them all in the comments below.
Yep.
Make sure to like this video if you enjoyed us blabbing about this. Make sure to subscribe, or else God will frown upon you. I'm just kidding. He'll still love you regardless. Make sure to hit notification bells as well. Tune in for more content from us, guys. We're excited to talk about Last of Us. Ooh. There's going to be movies coming out. Daredevil's wrapping up. There's just like so much to catch up on. So thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys on the next one. Peace.